What a truly beautiful episode that had emotion, character development, unit evolution, and some stunning visuals. So, hello everyone and welcome to Dueling with Downton, and today we're talking all things episode 11 of the Cardfight Vanguard Divinez Deluxe arc. An episode that focuses around Suo and Suzune. And I loved how this episode gave us this interaction and it allowed it room to breathe. We had the whole episode dedicated to this. Suzune's story has been built up so nicely throughout the series so far that it all came to an end here in such a perfect way that makes her character so lovable and gives you kind of intrigue and interest for her future if we ever see her again. Now then, we do have the obvious sort of connection between Suzune and Suo, in that how Suo sees himself from season 1 within her, an empty puppet that never thinks for herself. We do get a sense of fear from Suzune though, because throughout her life she has been manipulated and poisoned by her mother's words, conditioned to believe that she has no value if she doesn't win, weighing her down by a massive amount of pressure. Plus, she might not even know what will happen to her if she has no value. Like, where will she go and what will her mother do to her? But after this fight, it was so heartwarming to see her smiling and finding the courage to confront her mother and start down her path to find her true self. Seeing the broken chains on the ground was so satisfying as we close off her story for now. I liked also how her mother still remained quite cold and stern, but understood her daughter's wishes in wanting to move forward. I imagine that she was in a similar situation as a child, but never had the courage to become herself. And because she had a childhood like this, she was then also suppressed and conditioned to have only value in winning, so she raised her daughter in Suzune the same way. However, after seeing her daughter wanting to change, she still had to act a bit stern and strict because she didn't want to devalue everything she'd already told Suzune, but more importantly, she wanted Suzune to remain focused and not regret her actions moving forward. So I do think that we do have a slight, small redemption from her mother's side of things, but her mother is still a dirty piece of work. Now obviously we know that Suzune's family is a family that never changes, but a family that always wins and sticks to its ideals. So this conversation between Suzune and her mother, where Suzune wants to explore her own ideals and find herself and basically bring honor to the family in a new way, does make things a little bit more refreshing, as we know that nothing can stay the same. Things can only become successful with growth. Now then, moving on, we're talking about someone else who's had significant character growth, and that is Suo. Within this episode, I want to firstly start off by talking about this scene where he talks to his parents at the beginning. This was mega wholesome, with him basically telling them that he loves playing Vanguard still and he's happy in life. This melted my heart, something that any parent would want to hear, regardless of whether or not they're dead or alive. Now, Suo wanting to help Suzune because he sees his old self within her was sweet as well, as him saying that he wants to reach out a hand just like Akina did for him shows how much he also values Akina and his friendship. Remembering that if it wasn't for Akina, Suo would have wished for zero and died, taking a lot of people with them, as we saw in Erika's timeline. Some people might say that Suo was being pushy and forcing Suzune, but I think Suo knew that this type of straightforwardness and the words that he said were necessary, as the chains that bound Suzune were so tight and restrictive. So I don't think Suo went too far here. In fact, I think he did a perfect job. It's still hard to see a lot of emotion from Suo's character because of just the way that they animate him, but we saw pretty much the most amount of emotion that we've ever seen from him within this episode. And he displayed that in a way that helped back up what he was saying. It made it more believable to us as the viewer. and that we actually could get behind him and tell that he really wanted to help and be friends with Suzune. So yeah, we have that maturity growth from Suo, but also his deck evolution was great as well. Seeing him using a good and smart strategy of having monsters that attack and then either retire, soul charge or get sent to the bind zone was a great way to avoid the lock mechanic. And the fated 1 of 0 Black Demaya having an evolution changing from the one who walks from... Evolution changing to the one who walks from 0. Black Demaya Nexus. This was awesome and helps to showcase Zuo's character development, going from someone that had nothing, someone who didn't want anything, someone at 0, finding something like friendship, something like light. The symbolism of this card with the skill was brilliant, as the last effect allows you to choose up to one face down card from your bind zone, reveal it, and if the revealed card is a grade 3 or less, call it to a rear guard. If you did not reveal a card, you may draw a card. This was just showcasing that Suo is now used to the feeling of having friends and no longer being alone. He's got support around him. Even the episode wanted to help emphasize this point by showing off that Black Demaya was the only unit on his board before this persona ride / activation of the skill, allowing Suo to fully load his board, just like how now Suo started off as being alone, but he's now surrounded by characters like Aikua, Akina, Erika, everyone else that he's met on his journey so far. Design wise, this card looks really cool, but I'm a little sad that it does lose the scythe, as this is one of my favourite type of weapons. But all well it ends well, as this episode did a great service for Suo. And he's now through to the knockout stages, which is pretty cool. And speaking of through to the knockout stages, our girl Midai did it. She went through undefeated, the dark horse to win it all. Am I right? Probably not. Most likely she's going to face Ruka if the second place in D group is in fact Ruka, giving us the creator of Blackout versus the creator of Daybreak, which for story purposes, Midai is probably going to lose. But they have to show that match, please. Overall, this was a fantastic episode. The music was brilliant, the animation was breathtaking and top tier. The storytelling was perfect from the build up from the start of the season all the way up until now. The payoff was brilliant. The comedy with Aikua was a little bit funny, thinking that, Suo had a crush on a girl and him freaking out was just a little bit out of character, but actually quite fun. So overall, let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. What did you think of episode 11? Other than that though, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Alligator, matane, goodbye.